Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So I had an episode on battery tips and tricks that I was all set to record this morning, but Tesla inimitably went ahead and put out their beta 10.10 software. And so I figured I should go ahead and usurp what I was going to do and go with my tradition of doing release note kind of episodes and discuss what's going on here. I can pretty much guarantee that Tesla did not release version 11 when they wanted to and release 10.10 for number 2, so we're going to start with number 2. And has been all over the Twitterverse and everything lately. Notice that they say they have disabled rolling stop functionality in all self-driving profiles. The rest of this is an explanation and kind of a middle finger to NHTSA, I'm sure, because I'm sure Tesla is not happy about this. Anyway, for people who don't know, at least in the United States, in a lot of places, not everywhere, there is a thing called rolling stops. And that is if you're in generally a neighborhood or something and there's nobody around and it's like a four-way stop, you just kind of, you slow down to a couple miles an hour and you roll through. Yes, absolutely, it is illegal, but also, yes, 95% of people who drive that way. So clearly, if the car is going to learn to drive like a person in the United States, it's not going to come to a complete stop in a neighborhood at a stop sign where people are going slowly and there's nothing around. So that's basically it. I know you can argue the legalities of it all day if you want, but that is how people in the United States drive, because I just was driving this morning and watching people do that. So there you go. So anyway, the rest of this is kind of a little bit of a snarky kind of like rationale for why they used to do it. Anyway, it says this behavior used to allow the vehicle to roll through all-way stop intersections, but only when several conditions were met, including vehicle speed less than 5.6 miles an hour or approximately 10 kilometers an hour. I think that's actually like 9.5 or something. No relevant objects, pedestrians, cyclists detected, sufficient visibility, and all entering roads at the intersection have speed limits below 30 miles an hour. So exactly what I was saying, a neighborhood type of situation where the car is driving at a very slow rate. There's a four-way stop sign. There's nobody around. It would go through. I have to tell you, in my experience, and I have it set to assertive mode, which is the mode where it would roll stop signs. I don't know, maybe a couple of times. I don't tend to drive through neighborhoods like that a lot where I live, and so I don't think I'd see it normally, but I really didn't notice it stopping or rolling through stop signs anywhere. So anyway, it's not going to affect me that much because of where I live and the things I drive and so forth, but it is one of those situations where the car, especially in California, it's called a California stop because everybody in California does that, and it's going to annoy people. It will be legal, but it's also going to drive in a way that annoys other people. So clearly, this was an NHTSA decision. They forced it, and if you look in the news, it's a recall. Oh my gosh, Tesla, So it's not a recall. It's not something that was broken. It's taking away functionality out of the Tesla full self-driving beta. So whether or not you agree with that, it's annoying that a regulatory body forced that, because I would rather, as a consumer, be able to choose what I want. And that's normally what you do. You can just set it to like the more chill mode and it won't roll through stop signs, and therefore you don't have to worry about it. So I would rather have the choice as a consumer whether to take the chance of violating the law or not. Now, eventually, I guess when Tesla is actually doing full self-driving with their robo-taxis and they are legally responsible, they are set up much better in this case because Tesla does not want to be responsible for rolling through stop signs and getting Tesla tickets when the people in the car are just passengers and not drivers. So anyway, I can see both sides of it. It's just going to be a little bit annoying. Hopefully what they'll do is they'll stop and just stop for like, a quarter of a second and keep going under those circumstances. So it shouldn't be too bad. Anyway, enough of that one. Number 1 up here, smoother fork maneuvers and turn lane selection using high fidelity trajectory primitives. Okay, so fork maneuvers obviously are a fork when you get to a fork in the road and it splits off. Also turn lane selection. So that's figuring out which lane to be in. I think they're saying that that's when there's multiple lanes. So right, so maybe you have a right lane that is going straight into the right, and then you have 2 left turn lanes. And so maybe what it's doing is figuring out which one to go in. I have noticed this when I get off the highway coming home. There are 2 left turn exit lanes where I need to get off, and the car kind of goes do, 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 like that. It kind of oscillates trying to make a decision about which one to go into. So hopefully in that exact circumstance, I don't have 10.10 yet, so I can't drive it. Of course, I'll do a first drive with 10.10 when I get it. This looks like a relatively minor update, as we'll see with all the stuff compared to 10.9. But anyway, I will definitely do a first drive with it. And I'll look at that specifically. I'll look at that turn and see if it makes that selection smoother. High fidelity trajectory primitives, I think, is what they're saying is that they are actually modeling out, again, these things as opposed to point clouds and stuff. They're actually creating three-dimensional vector space objects out of this. So they're modeling these turn lanes as 3D vector space objects. And so I think having a higher fidelity for that, having it understand what these are better and model them better and put them, kind of overlay them on the real road better, will allow it to make those decisions and make it smoother. So that's what I'll be looking out for. So we'll get to that spot. Hopefully I'll drive right there and we'll see it behave better when it gets there. I will also, when I get 10.10, attempt to find a neighborhood that has this kind of thing, right? So a four-way stop in a neighborhood where there's an all-way stop, and it would have rolled through previously. I expect it won't at this point since they've taken it away, and that's a relatively simple. All right, onward and upward. Improved generalized static object network by 4% using improved ground truth trajectories. And let's go and take a look at FSD Beta 10.9 release notes. And you'll see that they had their number 2 thing was upgraded generalized static object network to use 10-bit photon count streams, et cetera, et cetera. Did a whole episode on that, so watch that if you want a much more in-depth review of what that is, because that's a pretty complicated thing. But anyway, what you can see with this one is that they've improved this another 4%. So we've got this basic thing, we've got, photon counting as opposed to the post-processed images that we are used to seeing on cameras. They're using 10 bits rather than 8 bits, and they're using 10-bit inference as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. And clearly what they've done here is they've just improved this by another 4%. So this basically is 10.9 release with an extra 4% added on top of that. So there you go. Anyway, if you're interested in a much more detailed discussion of that, definitely check out that video. I'll put a link in the card, and I'll actually put the link at the end of this video so you can click on that when you get there, just to make it easy. Next up, improved smoothness when stopping for crossing objects at intersections by modeling soft and hard constraints to better represent urgency of the slowdown. So this again is stuff that we've seen in previous versions of the software, but basically what it's saying is that it's modeling constraints. So it's saying like there's an emergency constraint, like so somebody steps out from the curb and you're just a few meters away, and that's a hard constraint. It's like, oh my gosh, better stop the car immediately. That's a pretty violent maneuver. Of course, the car has to stop fast. The person behind you might hit you. There's bad things that can happen with that. A soft constraint would be that you're seeing like up in the distance, you can see that there's a pedestrian crosswalk, maybe you're 100 meters away at that point. There's a pedestrian crosswalk. You see the lights flashing, you see the person start to step out into the intersection. That's a soft constraint because you know you have to get there, but you also know you have a cushion. So the car doesn't need to go and stop right and then go slowly towards there. What it can do is it can smoothly merge down to that like a human being would do, right? So you're like in your brain, you're not saying 100 meters, but you know how far away that is. And so you will smoothly slow down so that you stop when you get to that pedestrian crossing area. So hard constraint, emergency, do it right away. Forget about comfort. Soft constraint is trying to create that cushion so that like a human being driving, it will slow down more gently and it will, not seem so ridiculous and robotic. It'll seem much more human as it drives. Next up is a rather interesting one. Enabled lane changing into an oncoming lane to maneuver around static obstacles when safe to do so. Now, this is interesting. I have had this happen, and I've actually given a lot of feedback by pushing the little camera button for Tesla because I drive through my campus at UGA, and I go down a street that's a 2-lane road with a definite double yellow line, which means no crossing it. And the problem is that when there's a lot of student traffic, right, class changeovers and stuff, that'll get backed up for a long ways. And so a particular light is around a corner. So the car can't see that light. And what it does is it thinks that all these cars, I think, are parked. And it actually tries to pull out into the other lane, which is extremely dangerous because cars are coming the other direction. So anyway, I thought that that was already enabled because it was doing that. And I've been giving Tesla feedback like, hey, you need to fix this problem because it's dangerous that the car wants to pull out into the opposite lane when traffic is going on, and these cars aren't actually stopped, they're actually at a red light. It's just that the Tesla can't see it because the red light is around a corner. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I think overall this is a good thing, right? A lot of times you come up on a car, like let's say a mail truck, and it's kind of parked halfway into the lane, and you need to pull around that and get around the mail truck because it's just sitting there and the guy's delivering mail or something, right? Or there's a semi truck that's parked on the side of the road or something. There's a bunch of situations where you do need to get around something safely. So it's very good that the car will do this. I'm just curious because it felt like to me it was doing that already. So it'll be interesting in my situation to see what happens. So, you know, I'll try to put it'll be hard to do this all in one drive because it's hard to work out the timing. But anyway, I will definitely capture that and at least do a short video just on that particular thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. If you've had problems with your Tesla before, like slowing down and not going around a car that's parked on the side of the road, this should fix that. So that is a good thing. All right, next up, improved smoothness for merge handling by enforcing more consistency with previous cycles' speed control decisions. All right, so smoothness, we all understand that's that jerkiness of the car, you know, accelerating and decelerating. It's actually called jerk because it's the third derivative of distance over time. So anyway, there's distance, there's velocity, which is the first derivative, there's acceleration, which is the second, there's jerk, which is the third derivative. So anyway, they're trying to smooth things out, not have it be as jerky. And what it's doing is the previous cycle, I assume, means the previous full self-driving hardware cycle, right? So it's making a decision. I think if I remember correctly, Elon Musk said it's about 10 hertz right now, so it's making 10 decisions a second. So the previous cycle, it may have said accelerate forward, and then this cycle, it's disregarding the last one and it's saying, uh-oh, brake, right? So what it can do is it can kind of go like that, where it's jerking forward and backward, not doing a good job as it merges. So now what it's doing is it's actually having what would be, I think, called momentum. It's actually taking account of the previous cycle or the previous multiple cycle speed decisions. So if that decision was speed up and the decision now is slow down, it's going to kind of try to average those two out. So it's not going to go speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, right? So that's like very jerky and it doesn't feel good. And certainly I've had that happen to me before, specifically when it's doing merges. So this will be very, very helpful, I think. So fingers crossed that that will work better. We will see. All right, next up, improved handling of flashing red light traffic controls by adding more caution for events where crossing vehicles may not stop. So here, I think the problem is that the Tesla has been assuming that when it sees flashing red, that it's a four-way stop. So that would be, you know, a stop sign, effectively a stop sign for these guys and a stop sign for these guys. So everybody stops and it can go forward. So what it's going to do now is it's just going to add a little bit more caution where it doesn't know for sure that the other traffic direction is going to stop. So a lot of times what will happen with a flashing red light is one direction will have flashing red and the other's flashing yellow. And so those guys just go right on through. So it can be very dangerous if the car thinks that the other traffic and the cross direction is going to stop. So it's now going to be more cautious about that when it doesn't know for a fact that it's a four-way stop. So that is definitely all to the good. All right, and last on the list, improved right-of-way understanding at intersections with better modeling of intersection extents. Let's go back and take a look at Beta 10.9 again. That is this number one, improved intersection extents and right-of-way assignment by updating modeling of intersection areas from dense rasters to sparse instances. I went all into this in Beta 10.9. Again, if you don't understand this stuff, definitely check out that video. So basically what they're doing is they're doing a better job of modeling these extents, I believe, than 10.9, but the big bump came with 10.9. They were going from a bag of points, which is just a whole bunch of pixels, to understanding things in 3D space as vectors. That was a huge, huge change with 10.9. It made a really big difference to the drivability, and you can see that in 10.10, they are improving that. So again, overall, you can see that most of this, aside from taking away the rolling stop, is just little incremental changes that have been made to version 10.9. The big change is going to come with 10.11. Elon has sort of promised it was going to come in February. We will see what happens. Maybe at a guess it'll happen 2 weeks from now. Maybe it'll be sooner than that, because 10.10, I have a feeling, was not necessarily one that they really wanted to release. I think it was something that they kind of had to release because of NHTSA, and they told them they had to get rid of the rolling stop, so they were like, well, we might as well just roll in this other stuff that we've improved in the meantime. But anyway, so hopefully within about 2 weeks or so, we will see version 11. I'm really crossing my fingers. That is the one stack to rule them all. That is going to be a really, really big deal. In the meantime, I hope this is helpful. I hope this explains things. I'm really looking forward to driving with version 10.10 because it does sound, even though it's small changes, it will be all to the good. And I'll be super curious to hear how all of your experiences are with 10.10. Alrighty, thank you. If you enjoyed this, please do like it so other people can find it. It really matters to YouTube. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. It was my patrons on Patreon that actually alerted me to the fact that 10.10 was out. I didn't notice it last night. Again, my car doesn't have the software upgrade, but it was very cool that they told me about it. So thank you all for letting me know. And of course, the timing of this video then is all due to you. So thank you. And if you're interested in some awesome merch, check out the link in the description. We've got the Tesla Bot t-shirt, which is super popular these days. Don't mess with Tesla. Lots of other t-shirts, tumblers, mugs, etc. So check out the link in the description and help the channel out. And for those of you interested in investing, check out WeBull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $1,600. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how going shopping for a solar roof, a power wall, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.